The ocean, a place we go to unwind, to find peace, to escape the noise of the city. But sometimes the places that feel the safest hide the darkest things you never saw coming. A mysterious drone hovering in the night. A shadow figure standing motionless on a sand dune. And silent intruders slipping across the marsh in the middle of a storm. These aren't made-up stories. They really happened. And after hearing them, you might never look at the beach the same way again. If you're hearing this at night alone, make sure all your windows are locked. Because sometimes, the thing watching you isn't coming from your screen. Story. Night on the beach and the uninvited drone. I've lived near the ocean my entire life. Sea breeze, white sand, and crashing waves are part of my DNA. During senior year of high school, my two closest friends, Armin and Chuck, and I spent most of our nights exploring empty beaches after dark. We were young, reckless, and chasing moments we'd never forget. That night in May was cool, clear, and perfect for stargazing. Armin and I had made plans with two girls from school, Sophia and Fran. We brought blankets, a little booze, and enough excitement to fuel the night. I picked them up at 9 p.m. They'd already had a few drinks, eyes bright with energy. The car was filled with laughter the whole way to the beach. None of us were thinking about anything except having a good time. We arrived at a secluded stretch of sand far from the main boardwalk. I chose that spot because I knew no one else would be around. Once we laid out the blankets, Armin and Fran wandered off in one direction, while Sophia and I picked a quiet, darker spot to lie down. We were stretched out in the sand, buzzed and relaxed, when Sophia suddenly went rigid. She whispered, "Do you hear that?" I held my breath and listened. Beyond the waves crashing, there was a faint buzzing sound like a small engine hovering in the air. I waved it off. It's nothing. Probably just the wind. I had barely turned my head when Sophia screamed, pointing toward the sky. I looked up, and there it was. A drone. Hovering silently above us, backlit by the moonlight. It stayed there for a moment, then shot upward and vanished into the darkness. A freezing sensation washed over me, that unmistakable feeling of being watched. We hurried back to the car. Armin and Fran were already there waiting. I told them what happened. No one said much. No more laughter. Just silence and uneasy glances. On the way back, the girls didn't want to go home. They felt too shaken. And none of our houses were really an option at that hour. So I told Armin to call Chuck, our third best friend, and ask if we could crash at his place. Luckily, Chuck said yes. When everyone went inside, I stayed in the car for a moment to gather myself. I closed my eyes, trying to forget what I'd just seen. And then, I opened my phone. Everything collapsed. A notification lit up the screen. AirTag is moving with you. I froze. Someone hadn't just watched us with a drone, they'd planted a tracker. I jumped out of the car and started searching every inch under the seats and the trunk beneath the floor mats. When I reached the front left wheel, my hand brushed something small and hard. An AirTag carefully taped inside the wheel well. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. I crushed it beneath my foot, ran inside, and showed the pieces to everyone. Sophia broke down crying. Her phone had the same notification. Chuck was furious. We had been followed all the way to his house. No one slept that night. Weeks passed. We thought it was over. Until one Sunday morning, Chuck called panicked. When I arrived, he held out a stack of photos. They were of Sophia and me, on the beach that night. Grainy, slightly blurred, but unmistakably real, taken while we thought we were alone. We reported it to the police. They found nothing. No prints. No clues. Sophia was terrified, afraid she'd be blackmailed. And me. I couldn't shake the guilt for bringing her into this. We never found out who was watching us. But from that night on, I never went back to the beach after dark. And I always look up just in case something's hovering above me. Story 2. The figures on the sand dunes. I never thought a peaceful night on the beach would become the worst memory of my life. That night, my best friend Ricardo and I decided to keep it low-key. No parties, no noise, just a few beers, a joint, and a sky full of stars. We biked out to a remote beach at the very end of the road. No lights, no people, just the sound of crashing waves and the ocean breeze. The moment our feet touched the sand, the isolation felt perfect. We sat down, popped open our drinks, and took a long drag. Above us, a million stars. Below, the cool, smooth sand. It was a perfect moment until I heard a strange sound. A faint metallic hum. It wasn't the wind, and it wasn't anything natural coming from the beach. It made the hairs on my neck stand up. Ricardo hadn't noticed at first, but then I saw his face freeze up too. We both went silent. The sound seemed to come from every direction, as if something was circling us. But there was nothing to see. Panic began to creep in. The moment we stood up, the humming spiked sharper, clearer. It came from the right. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Just as I was about to run, Ricardo grabbed my arm, and that's when I saw it. At the top of the dune ahead, a tall, motionless figure. It didn't sway in the wind. It didn't move at all. It just stood there. Its arms hung almost to its knees. It was unnaturally tall, still as stone. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was watching us. We didn't think. We ran. Sprinting down the beach, our feet sinking deep into the sand like something was pulling us back. I looked behind and saw more of them. 3 more figures had appeared, all perfectly still, like shadows pulled from a nightmare. We scrambled up another dune, abandoning our bikes behind, and ran for the road. Somehow we made it to Ricardo's house, hearts still pounding. We didn't say a word. Just sat in the dark. But it wasn't over. The next morning, we went back to look for our bikes. But the beach was empty. No tire tracks, no footprints. Nothing, as if no one had ever been there. Losing the bikes didn't matter. What haunted me most was that sound. The drone-like hum, unlike anything I've ever heard. No lights, no visible shape. But something was there, watching. I still wonder what followed us that night. The figures standing motionless on the dunes, or the thing we never saw, just heard. Where did they come from? What did they want? Since that night, I haven't felt safe going to the beach after dark. Even the smallest buzz or the slightest movement in the dark is enough to make my blood run cold. Some things happen at night in empty places that you're never meant to see. And if you do see them, you'd better hope they didn't see you. Story 3. The Keys Across the Marsh. I never thought the old cabin by the marsh, a place filled with childhood memories, would become the place I almost died. That summer, my 2 friends Charles and Riley and I returned to my family's wooden lake house for one last getaway before our senior year. But we weren't alone. Riley had invited 3 girls he met on social media, Molly, Jess, and Lana. Everyone was buzzing with energy. Music, cold beers, conversation, and laughter filled the tiny cabin with life in the middle of a quiet, wooded nowhere. That night, just after sunset, the air turned thick and damp. We stepped into the backyard where a narrow wooden dock stretched out across the still water. I sat by the edge, gazing across the marsh to the far side where an old, long-abandoned house stood in silence. That's when I saw it. A figure standing perfectly still at the end of the dock across from us. In the fading orange glow of dusk, he didn't move, just watched, or waited. I rubbed my eyes, thinking it was just my imagination. But then Charles looked too and whispered, "You see him, right?" We pulled everyone back inside and shut the door. Even Charles, usually the one making jokes, wasn't smiling anymore. The mood shifted. We checked the windows, the front door. Everything was locked. I tried to calm everyone down, saying we were in the middle of nowhere. Seeing a random person wasn't that strange. And then we heard it click. A back window just behind the kitchen creaked open. Someone had pushed it from the outside. We rushed upstairs, checking every room. In my parents' bedroom, a closet door was slightly ajar. I approached it, a cold draft trailing down my neck. I flung it open, nothing. But the fitted sheet behind it was oddly folded, as if someone had been hiding underneath it. Then we heard the front door creak open from downstairs. None of us screamed. We were frozen with fear, knowing even a sound might give us away. We crawled onto the back balcony, jumped into the grass, and bolted to the car. Charles was driving. His hands were shaking. As we sped off, I looked back. 4 figures stepped silently out of the cabin. One of them was holding my dad's spare key, the one hidden in the breaker box near the porch. We called the police. They arrived late. The intruders were gone. Nothing was stolen. No TV, no cash, no valuables. But one thing was missing. A photo of us once framed on the shelf. And one of my hoodies. They hadn't broken in to rob us. They came to blend in, to observe, and to leave with a piece of us like a silent trophy. I never went back to the Marsh cabin. But sometimes in my dreams, I still see the light flicker from that house across the water, and hear the jingle of keys echoing in the dark, a reminder that they're still there, waiting. 3 stories, 3 encounters with the unexplainable, and 3 chilling reminders that nowhere is truly safe, not even the beach you once called paradise. If you've ever had a chilling moment in nature where the cold didn't come from the wind, but from a gaze you couldn't see, share your story below. And remember, there's always someone watching in the dark. Subscribe so you don't miss the next terrifying true stories. We'll be back with more whispers in the night.